The first time Caleb Hart decided he needed a wife, it wasn't because of loneliness in the way people talked about it, not the aching desperation or the empty bed at night, but the quiet kind of solitude that settled into a man's bones after too many sunsets watched alone and too many meals eaten in silence. The kind that made even a strong cowboy admit, if only to himself, that life was meant to be shared. Caleb had built his ranch with his own hands, fought droughts, buried his parents beneath a wide Wyoming sky, and learned how to live with the wind as his only companion. But as he stood on his porch one evening watching the horizon bleed gold into violet, he realized something was missing. Not excitement, not adventure, but warmth. The steady presence of someone who would wait for him at the end of the day and know his silences as well as his words. The idea came to him simply, almost foolishly, as if fate whispered it when he wasn't paying attention. He would find a wife not for passion or romance, but for partnership, for a shared life built on trust and kindness. So he placed an ad in the small-town paper, awkwardly worded and honest to a fault, saying he was a hard-working rancher looking for a woman who wanted a quiet life, stability and respect, never imagining that the universe had already decided to give him far more than he asked for. Emma Dawson arrived on the morning train with a single suitcase and a past she didn't speak about, stepping onto the platform with cautious hope in her eyes and a heart that had learned to protect itself, having spent years caring for others while forgetting what it felt like to be cared for. She answered Caleb's ad not because she dreamed of fairy tales, but because she wanted safety, a place where the ground didn't shift beneath her feet. And when she saw him for the first time, tall, broad-shouldered, hat in hand like he wasn't quite sure what to do with himself, she felt an unexpected calm, as if her body recognized something her mind hadn't yet named. Their first conversation was simple and slightly awkward, full of polite pauses and careful words. Yet beneath it ran a current of something unspoken, a mutual understanding that both of them were tired of running and ready to stay. Caleb noticed how Emma listened when he spoke, really listened, like his words mattered. And Emma noticed the way he watched her, not with possession or hunger, but with quiet consideration, as if he were already thinking about how to make space for her in his life. As they rode toward the ranch, dust rising behind them and the land stretching endlessly ahead, neither of them said much, but the silence felt gentle rather than strained, filled with possibilities instead of fear. Emma took in the open fields, the sturdy house, the slow rhythm of ranch life, and for the first time in years, she let herself imagine a future that didn't feel fragile. Caleb, meanwhile, found himself noticing small things, the way sunlight caught in her hair, the steadiness in her voice, the kindness she showed to his horses without hesitation, and something inside him shifted. Subtle but profound, like the earth settling after a long winter. That evening, as they sat across from each other at a wooden table worn smooth by time, he realized that what he had wanted was a wife, but what fate might be offering was something far more rare. A woman who could become home. Neither of them knew it yet, but that quiet dinner, those tentative smiles, were the first steps of a love neither had dared to hope for, a love that would test them, heal them, and change them in ways they could not yet see. And if you feel that pull already, that gentle unfolding of destiny, make sure you subscribe to this channel, because this is only the beginning of Caleb and Emma's story, and the best chapters of their love are still to come. Life at the ranch began to settle into a gentle rhythm that surprised them both, as if the land itself had been waiting for Emma's footsteps to join Caleb's, and each day unfolded with small moments that quietly stitched their lives together. Moments neither of them had planned, but both had begun to rely on. Emma learned the patterns of the mornings, the way Caleb rose before the sun and moved through his chores with practiced ease, never loud, never rushed. And she found herself waking early too, not because she had to, but because she wanted to share that quiet dawn with him, handing him coffee, watching the sky change colors as if it were painting a promise just for them. Caleb, in turn, noticed how the house changed with Emma's presence. Not in grand ways, but in the subtle details. The warmth in the air, the laughter that slipped out when she thought he wasn't listening, the way she hummed softly while cooking, as if music lived naturally inside her. They spoke more now, cautiously at first, then with growing honesty, sharing pieces of themselves like fragile offerings. And though neither mentioned love, it hovered between them in the unspoken pauses, in the way their eyes lingered a second too long, in the way Caleb instinctively stepped closer when Emma grew quiet, as if sensing the weight of memories she carried. One evening, as a storm rolled in unexpectedly and rain drummed against the roof with restless urgency, Emma finally let her guard slip, telling him about the years she had spent being strong for everyone else, about loss and disappointment and the exhaustion of always surviving but never truly living. And Caleb listened the way he always did, steady and patient, never interrupting, until he simply reached for her hand, grounding her without words, letting her know she didn't have to be strong here. In that moment, something fragile but powerful bloomed between them, a trust that went deeper than any agreement or expectation, and Emma felt a warmth spread through her chest that frightened her because it felt like hope. Caleb, too, was changing in ways he hadn't anticipated, finding himself thinking of Emma in the quiet hours, imagining her laughter filling the years ahead, realizing that the idea of a wife had once been practical, almost transactional, but now the thought of losing her felt unbearable, like losing the very future he hadn't known he was building. Their first kiss happened not in a rush of passion, but in a moment of stillness, when the storm had passed and the world felt washed clean, their lips meeting softly, hesitantly as if asking permission. And when they pulled away, neither spoke. Because nothing needed to be said, the answer was already there. From that night on, love revealed itself not as a sudden blaze, but as a steady flame growing stronger with every shared meal, every quiet conversation, every time they chose patience over fear. And when Caleb finally admitted, voice rough with emotion, that he hadn't just wanted a wife but had found the woman of his dreams, Emma felt tears fall freely, not from sadness, but from the relief of being seen and chosen fully. Their story did not end with perfection, because real love never does, but it found its beginning in commitment, kindness, and the courage to believe in something lasting. And if this journey touched your heart, if you believe in love that grows slowly and deeply, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, because stories like Caleb and Emma's remind us that sometimes, when we ask life for something simple, fate answers with everything we ever dreamed of. The seasons turned quietly after that, as they always did on the ranch. But this time, the passing of days felt different, fuller, as if each sunrise carried meaning now that it was shared. And Emma found herself settling into a life she hadn't known she was longing for. A life where love didn't demand performance or sacrifice, but simply asked her to be present. Caleb watched her grow more at ease with every week, her laughter coming easier, her shoulders no longer tense with the weight of old fears. And he realized that loving her wasn't something he had to try at. It was something that happened naturally, like breathing, like the land responding to rain. There were quiet evenings spent on the porch, hands intertwined as they watched the stars appear one by one, and mornings where words weren't needed, because comfort had replaced uncertainty. And in those moments, Caleb understood that fate hadn't just answered his request. It had rewritten his life. Emma, too, learned what it meant to be chosen without conditions, to be loved not for what she could give, but for who she was. And when she finally said yes to building a forever with him, it wasn't with hesitation or fear, but with a calm certainty that felt like coming home. Their wedding was simple, held beneath an open sky with the wind as witness. But the promise they made to each other was vast and enduring, rooted in trust, patience, and the quiet knowledge that real love doesn't arrive loudly, it stays. And as the years stretched ahead of them, filled with shared dreams, challenges faced together, and a love that deepened rather than faded, their story became a reminder that sometimes the bravest thing a person can do is ask for what they need and believe fate might answer kindly. If this story made you believe in love that grows gently and lasts, if it warmed your heart even a little, make sure you subscribe to this channel for more soulful, romantic stories like this one. Because the best love stories aren't rushed, they're lived, and many more are waiting to be told. Years passed not in dramatic leaps, but in gentle layers, each one settling over the last like a well-worn quilt. And Caleb often thought that if fate had asked him what kind of life he wanted back when he placed that simple ad, he would never have known how to describe this fullness, this quiet joy that came from waking beside Emma and knowing, without doubt, that he was exactly where he was meant to be. The ranch flourished under their shared care. But more than that, so did they, learning how love wasn't something that stayed still, but something that grew, adjusted and deepened through seasons of ease and hardship alike. Emma became the heart of the home in ways she never forced, her kindness woven into the daily rhythm, her strength revealed not in loud moments but in the steady way, She stood beside Caleb when challenges came, reminding him that he no longer carried the weight of the world alone. There were moments of struggle, of course, days when the land was unkind or the past crept too close for comfort. But they faced those moments together, hands linked, voices calm, choosing patience over fear again and again. Sometimes, late at night, Emma would trace the lines of Caleb's hand and tell him how answering that ad had changed her life, how it had given her not just a home, but the freedom to be herself. And Caleb would smile softly, knowing that what he had thought was a simple solution to loneliness had become the greatest gift he would ever receive. Love, he learned, wasn't about grand declarations, but about showing up day after day, choosing the same person with quiet certainty, even when the world was uncertain. And as the years continued to unfold, their story became one of those rare, steady loves that didn't burn out but burned on, warming everything it touched, reminding anyone who witnessed it that sometimes destiny doesn't arrive in a rush. It walks in slowly, carrying a suitcase, and stays forever. If this story made you believe in lasting love, in gentle fate, and in the beauty of choosing someone every day, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, because more stories like this, stories that heal, inspire, and linger, are waiting just ahead.